guys, today we're going to be doing another 10 looks 1 palette video, and the reason why I'm kind of laughing is because I wasn't planning on doing 10 looks with this palette, but when I sat down to play with this, the first couple of looks I did, I was like, you know what, I need to just do a lot of looks with this palette because this palette just inspires me so much. Obviously the palette in question here is the Natasha Denona Metropolis palette. This is her new holiday palette that has just come out, and I was lucky enough to pick this up at Sephora, and I also did a vlog that I will link up in the corner if you want to check that out. I also was able to go to the Natasha Denona Masterclass, which I showed a little bit from in my first video with this palette. I'll also have that linked up in the cards. So today we're going to be doing 10 looks with this. I will also have a review at the end of the video. If you just want to skip to the review and hear my thoughts on this palette, you can skip to the timestamp on the screen right here. But I will of course talk a little bit about the techniques that I'm using and just advice that I have while I am doing the looks. So it might still be helpful to watch the whole video if you want to get like a really good idea of how these shadows are going to perform. So I think we should just get into the looks. So sit back and relax, get a drink, grab a snack, whatever you want to make yourself comfortable, and let's get into look number 1. Alright, let's get into these 10 looks. I am so excited to show you guys all of these. I start off every single look by priming my eyes with my Smashbox Lid Primer in Light. I also never set my primer because I want my eyeshadows to have something tacky to hang on to, and I just find that all of my shadows always look way more pigmented when I don't set my base. So the first shadow that we'll be using is Antique, which is the dark brown in the palette, and I'm taking that on a very, very small pencil brush, and I'm starting by running it underneath my eye just so I can get a guide for where I want my shape of my eyeshadow to be. And so once I've kind of angled it out to where I want it, I'm starting to bring it into my crease. I do want this to be a bit of a graphic outline here because I am going to fill it in with other shadows afterwards. So once I've gotten the shape of this, I'm going to start filling in the outer corner of my eye, and I'm just kind of gently diffusing the edges on the inside of my eye here. Like I said, I do want the outer part, the outer shape of this to be kind of graphic. So next up I'm going to go into Jubilee, which is this beautiful teal shade. I love this shimmer. Now normally I would spray my shadows with some Fix Plus, but I didn't want this to be like super intense and I wanted to be able to blend this blue into the brown. So I'm just taking it dry and I'm putting it on about the middle of my lid, as well as just blending it into the brown everywhere where they meet. Then I'm going to go into Orium, which is the duochrome in this palette. I love this shadow. It's so beautiful. I did spray this one and I'm just going to layer it in the inner part of my eye here where I don't have any shadow yet. Just making sure I'm blending it into the lid shade as well as my crease here. I'm then taking Lethal, which is the lightest of the matte greens in this palette. I'm just popping that on the inner part of my lower lash line and just meeting it up with the brown that we have down there. I love just putting a bit of an unexpected color in this spot because it just makes every look a bit more unique than what they normally would be. And just because this is the first look, I will show you what I normally use to complete my eye looks with. So this is my DHC liquid liner. I love this liner. It's been my favorite now for probably over a year. I'm then going to curl my lashes and then put on about 346 coats of my Bad Gal Bang mascara because this is what I always do. I feel like you can just never have enough mascara, especially as someone who never wears false lashes. I feel like I just need my mascara to do all the work for me, so I just pile it on. And because one mascara is apparently not enough, I'm just going to layer some of my Maxi Lash mascara by Guerlain on top of my Bad Gal Bang just to make sure I get the lashes to look the way that I want. And for my lip choice, since I am a sucker for any kind of pink lipstick, I'm going to use Lovesick by Kat Von D because I just thought it would look really nice with this look. So since these lipsticks are a little bit drying, I'm also going to take a gloss and put on top of this. And the one I'm using is the Infallible Gloss by L'Oreal. This is in the shade Blush. And that's going to be the end of look number 1. I really like this look. I feel like it's kind of sultry while still being colorful and cute. And I also forgot to mention that I used one of the LA Girl Shockwave Neon Eyeliners in the shade Electric in my waterline because my camera shut off while I was applying it. Now let's get into the second look here, and for the second look I am starting off by taking one of the dark blues in this palette, which is called Symbol. And this is going to be a very simple look. I'm just going to be putting this shade into my crease. And as you can see, I'm using a bit of a small but still fluffy and dense brush. I find these kind of brushes to work the best with the cream to powder formulas. And most of the dark colorful mattes in this palette are that kind of formula. So just something to keep in mind if you were wondering about maybe getting this palette, that you might have to get some new brushes to go with it. If you're used to working with very big and fluffy brushes as your crease colors, this might not work the best. And once I'm happy with how this shade is looking, I'm next going to go into Aqueous, I think that's how you say it. And I'm going to spray that with some Fix Plus and basically just pop that all over my lid. I love that shadow. Isn't that just so beautiful? I can't get over how much of a sucker I am for just blue shimmers. I fall in love every single time, and this is not an exception. And I feel like this is a good time to give a bit of a disclaimer and say that yes, I know this is a very neutral palette and I'm not going to end up doing really any neutral looks with this. And that's simply because neutral looks is not what I do on my channel, it's not what I enjoy on myself. And I know that there are so many better channels out there that do neutral looks way better than I will ever be able to. So I'm going to leave it up to them to give you guys tutorials on how to do neutral looks with this palette, because I feel like a lot of people who get this palette are going to be doing a lot of neutral tutorials with this. I just want to show you some different things that you can do. And just to finish off this very simple eye look, I'm going to go into Queen, which is kind of it's not a matte, but it's more of a satiny, white, yellowy kind of shade. It's hard to explain, but it's a very good inner corner shade, and I feel like a lot of people are going to enjoy using this as a brow bone highlight as well. And just to stick with the blue theme here, I'm going to use my Prance eyeliner by ColourPop. This is just a very light blue, popping that right in there, and then I'm doing some liner and mascara off camera because that is boring to watch and you guys don't need to see that. For my lip choice, I went for sort of a mauvey pink lipstick, and this is from Stila. It's in the shade Patina. I don't know if these are available. I know I got this in like a Christmas set or something. I will try to link everything that I've used in most of these looks except for my base makeup because I simply don't remember all of them, but everything else should be linked down below in the description box if you want to go check any of it out. And that's going to be the end of look number 2. I told you that one was very quick and easy. So for this third look, I wanted to pull in some of these warmer shades in this palette. So I'm first going to take Ripe, which is the brightest of the oranges, and I'm going to be placing that in the first half of my crease as well as the first half of my lid, just patting it all over because I want this to be a full matte base so that I can use the topper shade on top of this. And as you can see, I haven't really done any cut creases or anything yet so far in this video, and I also don't plan on doing so. Obviously I can say that now because I've already filmed all of the looks, but I didn't do a single cut crease or half cut crease or anything like this in this entire video. I just didn't really feel like this was the kind of palette that called for cut creases. I don't know, it's hard to explain. Like some palettes, I feel like cut creases are just a logical thing to do with the color combinations that are in the palette, but with this being made by Natasha Denona, and I don't think Natasha Denona does a lot of cut creases, it just seemed appropriate to just kind of go with the flow and do what I felt like this palette wanted me to do, and it just ended up being more kind of simple and blended looks, and I really like that. Once I have the orange down, I'm next going to go into Troop, which is sort of like a browny green grungy color. I really like this, and so I'm placing that on the outer part of my eye as well as using this to decide the shape that I want on the outer corner here. Obviously this is just dependent on your own eye shape if you wanted to recreate anything similar, but whatever you feel like is going to look the best on your eye. I'm also taking it down underneath my lower lash line and just connecting it to the outer corner. I'm then taking the yellow shade in this palette for the first time in this video, which is called Rhizome, and I'm putting that in the inner part of my lower lash line. Again, I love to put like a different color down here that I don't have anywhere else in my eye look because I like how that looks. So once I've got that down, I'm going to go into the topper shade, which is called Orium. This is the duochrome, and I'm actually taking my finger, which I never really use shadows with my fingers, but I want to be as cool as Natasha Denona and I want to be a finger person, so I'm using my finger. And this packed on absolutely beautifully. This is such a stunning topper, and I feel like this is going to look good layer basically on top of anything. I'm also taking a bit of this on a brush and just popping that into my inner corner for a bit of lightness in there, and then I'm going to take some black and put that into my waterline. I don't use black in my waterline that often, but I just felt like I wanted to for this look. I'm also putting on some liner and mascara and lipstick, and the lip that I chose is Pumpkin Pie by Jeffree Star. This is probably my favorite fall colored lipstick. I just love like a dark, warm, orangey lip, especially with this look. I'm getting major fall vibes and I'm so ready for the heat to just go away. I've had enough of summer already. So let's move into look number 4 now. And for the fourth look, I'm first going to start off by taking the red, which is called Claret or Claret. I'm not really sure. I did spray this with some Fix Plus and I'm basically putting this all over my lid. So this is going to be an all shimmer look on top here. So I'm just keeping this kind of low down on my lid now, and I'm also taking that same brush and just working on winging out this shadow because I do want this to be sort of a graphic look, at least on the outer corner. And once I've gotten the wing down the way that I want, I'm taking a fluffy brush and I'm starting to blend out this shadow so that the top part of the shadow is going to be nice and blended. And let me tell you, this red blended out so beautifully. Like, I'm not really usually one to blend out shimmers, but I'm definitely going to start now because that worked so well. I'm also taking a bit more of that red shadow on my finger here just to really intensify the color that is right in the middle of my lid, and I feel like that made a big difference. So on my lower lash line here, I'm going to go into one of the lighter oranges, which is called Chrism, and I'm just going to smudge that out using a smudging brush. And that's basically going to be it for the upper and lower part of my eye. I am, however, going to put some of the gold shimmer into my inner corner. This one is called Imperia. I love having gold in my inner corner. It's one of my favorite things to do there. And I'm going to put ColourPop's Punch into my waterline, but apparently it broke, which made me so sad. I hate when that happens, but I still made it work. So I popped that into my waterline, and then I did some liner and mascara off camera because, again, who wants to see that? And for lips, I'm actually going to go with a red lip today because I just really want it to be all red. And I think this is my favorite red lipstick in my collection. It's a very, very true kind of cool tone red. This is from MAC. It's called Feel So Grand. And I'm topping that off with the L'Oreal Glam Shine Gloss in the shade Unlimited Fuchsia. And that's going to be it for this look. Again, a super simple look, but I really like how this turned out. And if you like what you're seeing and you want to see more multiple look kind of videos with colorful shadows just like this, might want to consider subscribing so you don't forget before you are done with this video. So now that you've done that, let's move into the next look, which is going to be look number 5. And for this look, I am also starting off with Troop, and I'm going to start placing that straight into my crease as well as just kind of blending this out as I go. But as you can see, I'm leaving a bit of room just in my outer corner here because I am going to go in with another shade. But before I do that, I'm also going to take this down to my lower lash line, again making sure I leave some room in the outer part where my outer corner is because I do want to sandwich another color right in between there. And for that color, I'm going to use one of the dark blues in this palette, which is called Enigma. And this color is leaning more on the green side, so I thought that this would look really nice with the green that I have in my crease here. So as you can see, I'm placing this in the outer corner as well as kind of bringing it into my crease just a tad bit, but I'm not pulling it all the way through. I am also gently wrapping this around down to my lower lash line and connecting it with the green that I have down there just to make sure that everything is flowing nicely together. For my lid shade here, I'm going to go into Queen, which, like I said earlier, is more of like a satin. So I am going to spray this just to make sure I get it nice and intense here. Now, obviously, this is not like the most pigmented shadow because it's not meant to be used as, you know, a very foiled shadow on the lid. But I wanted this to be more of a subtle look, if you will. I'm then just going to take a bit more of that green that we first put down and just make sure that everything is looking blended. And to finish up, I'm going to put on some liners and mascara. First, I'm going to pop some of the nude eyeliner from ColourPop into my waterline, as well as, like I said, some liquid liner and mascara. I'm also going to change my lipstick because I wasn't happy with the one that I was wearing, so instead I'm putting on Tasty by Jeffree Star, and I really like this a lot more. I feel like this ended up being a lot more grungy, sort of like the colors that we used in the eye look, and it just really tied it all together. And the one thing that I like the most about this palette is just how quick and easy all of these looks were to do. So let's get into the 6th look. Again, this is also going to be a pretty simple look, and I'm again starting with Troop. I'm so sorry, I didn't realize how often I use this shadow. Clearly, I just really like this. So I'm starting by taking a packing brush and just packing this all over my lid. This was actually my date night look that I wore out for dinner with my husband, and I really liked how this turned out. So just packing it all over my lid as well as down to my lower lash line here. As you can see, this color is so intense and opaque and nice that I could have walked out the door with just one eyeshadow on my lid and been perfectly happy. So next up, I'm going to take the Jubilee shade, which is a shimmer, and I'm placing that in the first half of my lid here. Now, I did change this up later in the video, as you will see, because I didn't like how it looked just having it in the inner part here. So just imagine that I put this all over my lid because that's how the look is going to end up looking. So once I've gotten that down, I'm also putting it a little bit down on my lower lash line in the first third or so, still leaving a little bit of room in my inner corner for another shade. And for that shade, I'm going to use the gold, which is called Blaze, or I should say one of the golds. This is more of like an orangey gold. And I thought this would just tie everything nicely together with my earrings and everything because it was more of a darker gold and like a bright gold. And then for my waterline, I'm using one of my new Urban Decay eyeliners. This is in the shade Electric Empire. I think this might have been from the Game of Thrones collection. I'm not really sure, but this is so beautiful. It's almost like a green-blue duochrome kind of thing. It's crazy the shift that this eyeliner has, and it's super glittery as well. I'm then putting on some liner and mascara off camera as usual, and I am also showing you that I did complete the look by taking more of that shimmer shade and just putting that all over my lid because I wasn't really happy with how it was looking, so I decided to make it into more of a smoky eye. So for lips, I used the House Laboratories lip liner. This is in the shade Rule, and then on top I used the gloss from them as well in the shade corset. And that's going to be the end of this look. I really enjoyed this look. I thought it came out looking very just sultry and pretty and not too out there, but still being colorful and fun. And it just made me feel really nice and confident. So let's move into look number 7. We are breezing through these. So for this look, I'm again going to use the yellow matte in the inner portion of my crease here. I just love doing this, and I feel like there's just so many more possibilities when you put shadows next to each other instead of, you know, layering them on top of each other. It just gives you more room to play. I'm then taking the shade right next to the one that I was pointing at. This is like the brighter orange, because I don't know why I was pointing at the wrong shade. Maybe I used the wrong shade, maybe I didn't, but I'm putting this in the rest of my crease here, just meeting it up with that yellow and making sure that everything is blended. And again, I am taking Truth because I just cannot stay away from the shadow because it's so beautiful. So I'm putting this in the outer corner of my eye, sort of creating a bit of a diagonal, focusing most of the color here on the lid part rather than pulling it through my crease. This didn't really end up being necessary because I am next going into Royal, which is the dark green in the palette, because I didn't feel like this was as dark as I wanted it to be. So I'm just kind of layering this on top of where I put down that green. And once I'm happy with how the intensity is looking here, I am taking the shade Shield, which is sort of like a taupey green, and I'm putting this in the middle of my eye here, connecting it with that green in the outer corner. I didn't spray this because I didn't want this to be super intense. I wanted this to be more of like a satin. And then for the inner part of my lid here, I'm going to use the gold, which again was called Imperia. And I am going to go ahead and spray that because I do want this one to be nice and intense. And I'm basically just putting that down where I don't have any shadow yet. And as you can see, I'm not trying to fake a cut crease or anything. I just want everything to blend together very nice and seamlessly. And I feel like that's kind of been the theme for me with all of these looks, which is so rare because I feel like every other time when I do a 10 look video, I always end up having at least like 3 half cut creases. But somehow I just wasn't feeling it with any of these. What I did feel, however, was some blue on my lower lash line, so I'm taking the shade Symbol on a small pencil brush. This is my Morphe M149. I love this for doing this kind of work with. Basically just smoking this out underneath my eye. And then for my inner corner here, I'm going to take that duochrome shade again, which is just so beautiful. And I'm going to kind of layer that above the blue a little bit, as well as just up into my inner corner. And that's going to be it for the shadows with this look. I'm then going to take Teaspoon by Colourpop, which is a green eyeliner, pop that into my waterline, do some liner and mascara. And then for lips, I'm going to take one of my Ofra lipsticks. This is in the shade Baroque, and I feel like this really completed the look. I like how this looks with the rest of the eye look, and that's going to be the end of this. Still, I'm going with the crazy faces because I clearly cannot help myself. I did try to contain myself a little bit in this video though, because I felt like Natasha Denona is such a classy brand, and I thought that maybe the people who were watching this compared to my other 10 look videos were maybe not going to be into the kind of goofiness that I am sometimes, but this is me. I couldn't help myself, so that's just who I am. So let's move into look number 8 now. And for look number 8, I'm going to use the yellow shade as my transition shade. And this is such a beautiful kind of mustardy yellow. I really like the tone of this. I think it's literally the perfect transition shade to go with any of the mattes in this palette. And I can totally see why she picked this instead of having more of a bone colored neutrally kind of matte, because this just works so well and it makes every look more interesting, if you will. So I'm putting the shadow in my crease as well as down to my lower lash line and just blending everything out. And to deepen up the yellow with, I'm going in with Lethal, which is another one of my favorite shades in this palette. Can you tell I really just enjoy the greens here because I feel like I use a green in every single look that I've done. Sorry, not sorry, but I just really like them. So I'm just using the shadow to deepen everything up with basically my crease as well as underneath my eye here. And then once I've done that, I'm going to take a little bit of this blue, which is called Symbol, and I'm placing this in the outer corner of my eye to deepen this look even further. And I'm not taking this all the way through my crease. I'm focusing it mostly in the outer 2/3 of my crease or so. And then I'm going to go in with some glitter glue. This is from Too Faced. You can use any glitter glue you want. I'm basically just patting this all over my lid. And then for my lid shade, I'm going to use one of the gold shades. This one is called Blaze. I am also spraying this despite having down some glitter glue because I did plan on wearing this for a very long period of time, and I also knew that I would probably get some fallout on my face during the day if I didn't make sure that the shade was securely put down, because these do have quite a bit of fallout. So I'd basically just put that right on top of where I put the glitter glue and making sure that everything was blended together. And just because I couldn't help myself, I'm also taking Jubilee just a tiny bit, and I'm not spraying this, but I'm just placing a little bit of this right in between that matte outer corner shade and the shimmer that we put on the lid. And I'm also going back with a bit more of that gold shade, and I'm going to put that in the inner part of my lower lash line here just to kind of tie together everything that we have on top. And then for the very inner corner, I'm going to use Imperia because I love me a gold inner corner. How many times have I said that in this video? So I'm just using a small pencil brush here and just tucking that right into my tear duct in my inner corner of my eye. I also wanted some more depth on the outer part of my lower lash line here, so I'm going back in with that dark blue shade and just connecting that to the outer corner of my eye. And that's going to be it for the shadows. I'm putting on some liner, some mascara, all black. And that's going to be it for the eye look. For my lips, I'm using one of the Wet n Wild Mega Last Liquid Catsuit High Shine lipsticks. This is in the shade Scent Nudes. It's one of my absolute favorites. I have this in my purse at all times. I absolutely love this. So this is probably one of my favorite looks, even though, again, super easy, nothing groundbreaking. It's just a very logically put together look, if you will. And yeah, I really enjoyed this. So we're moving into the last two looks now. So for look number 9, we're going to go ahead and start off by taking the shade Azoic and put that into my crease. I'm going to keep the shape of this pretty round because I am going to make this into a halo eye, which is actually the first and only one in this video, surprisingly for me, because I feel like I do a lot of halo eyes, but maybe I don't do as many as I think I do. So for the halo part, I'm going to use Aqueous, which is the shimmery blue. I am going to spray that with some Fix Plus and then put that in the inner and the outer part of my eye here. One of the things that I like the most about the shimmers in the Natasha Denona palette here is that they are super easy to blend out and things don't get muddy when you try to blend them into mattes, and they just end up looking really nice and they are super easy to work with. And I'm sure it's going to come as no surprise that I'm going to take Orium, which again was the dual chrome in this palette. I love this shade. This is definitely one of my favorite shades in this palette and it's very unique to my collection as well. So I'm just popping that right in the middle of my lid here, nothing fancy. Also patting just a little bit of this into my crease just to kind of extend the halo part of my eye here. And then for under my eye, I'm going to go with the dark green shadow here, which is called Royal. I'm just placing this down and blending it out as I go and making it nice and smudgy. And then for my inner corner, I'm going to use the shade Queen again. I am just gently tapping this in there. I don't want this inner corner to really take over the look, so I'm just using a little bit of this on a fluffy brush, just placing it right into my tear duct. And just to finish off, I'm also putting some blue into my waterline. This is again the LA liner in the shade Electric. Just a very bright blue. I love these liners. I think they are awesome. I'm then quickly finishing up with some liner and mascara before we move into lips. And for lipstick, Hilda by Kat Von D, which is one of my favorite browns in my collection. I just thought this would go really nice with this look. And this is going to be the end of look number 9. I feel like we are so close to the end. I hope you guys are hanging in there. If you are, leave me your favorite fall related emoji in the comments so I can see what it is. I don't know if there's a pumpkin emoji, but if there is, that's definitely the one that I would pick. So let's move into the last and final look, which was the look that I was wearing in the intro. So for this look, we're first starting off by taking Lethal, and I'm going to put that in the first third of my eye, both in my crease as well as on my lid, because this is going to be an all matte look, which I don't think I did any other all matte looks, but all of these shades just work so beautifully that I can do this with really any of them. I'm also taking this underneath my eye in the corresponding spot. Then for the next shadow, that's going to be right next to the one that we just put down. I'm going to take Royal, which is the kind of dark green in this palette, and I'm placing this in the middle of my eye as well as in the middle of my lower lash line as well. I'm trying to build this up as well as I can to start off, but I am going to go in and make sure that everything is looking blended as we go along here, but I just wanted to place this shadow down first. And of course, I am going to use the dark blue on the outer part of my eye here. It just seemed like the logical choice, you know. I thought about doing a brown, but I was like, why would I do a brown if I could do a blue? So I went with a blue. I'm using Enigma here, and I'm just connecting that to both the greens that I have in my crease as well as the lower lash line. And I'm also winging this out to be the shape that I want it to be on my eye. And I'm then just going back and forth in between all the different colors, just wiping my brush off on a towel in front of me and blending out all the edges, as well as just going in with all of them on top of my eye again and just building them up to be, you know, as intense as I wanted them to be and not look patchy at all. And the thing about these shadows is that they build so nicely, so this was super easy to do. And then again for my inner corner, I'm going to take this duochrome shade because I just love this shade, and I'm spraying it with a ton of Fix Plus, which is why I keep running out of my Fix Plus. I just had to go buy 2 more bottles. I swear I have a problem when it comes to Fix Plus, but I can't use any other setting sprays because a lot of them burn my eyes. So I guess I just have to keep spending money at MAC, but I'm not mad about it because it's worth it. So for my waterline, I'm taking one of the neon liners from ColourPop. This one is in the shade Electric Daisy. It's not really a neon green, it's more of a pastel-y green, but it still really made this eye look pop, and I love how the green looks together with all of the other shades here. So I'm putting on some liner and mascara off camera as usual, and then for lips, I'm going to use 2 lip products. I'm going to use my Sorme Non-Stop Liquid Lipstick in the shade Ribbon, and then I'm going to top that off with one of the Fantasticks by Linda Hallberg. This one is in the shade Famous, and I love these. I think the formula on those are so good. So those were all of the 10 looks. Let me know what you think. Which look was your favorite if you can remember. I will have timestamp linked below to all of them down in my description box if you ever want to go back and take a second look. And if you want to hear my final thoughts on this palette, just keep on watching. Alright, so you have seen all the looks. I really hope that you enjoy them as much as I enjoyed creating those because I had so much fun with this palette. I'm sure it showed in the looks as well, and I want to now tell you my thoughts on this palette. So obviously you saw in the demos that they were so easy to work with, and I will start off first by saying that I am so impressed by this palette. I did not have any issues whatsoever. But I can see some people maybe not liking this formula. So let's just talk a little bit about it. So there's quite a few formulas in this palette. We have regular mattes, we have cream to powder mattes, which is a new formula, I'm pretty sure, or a reformulated version of her other cream to matte shadows. I could be mistaken, but I hope I'm right. Anyway, the cream to powders are what stands out to me in this palette. I had such an amazing time working with all of the cream to mattes, and I've tried some of her little palettes in the past. I had the Tropic palette, which had one of those cream to matte kind of shadows in it, and I didn't like that one because I found that it created hard pan and it was really hard to pick up the shadows, but I didn't have any issues whatsoever with any of the cream mattes in this palette, and I thought that they picked up beautifully on my brush. I will say, when working with the cream to powder mattes, my best advice is to make sure you have the right brushes to use those colors with, because they are a little bit tricky to pick up on and work with if you don't have the right tools, which I feel like can be said with a lot of things. You know, if you're an artist, you want to have the right tools to be able to make the kind of paintings or work that you want to do. Does that make sense? So my best advice would be to use very small but still dense and fluffy brushes when working with these, because it's going to give you the most precision. These shadows also have a tendency to kind of take over the look because they are very like pow in your face and they are extremely pigmented. That's not to say you can't blend them out and work slowly with them, but they are going to be very pigmented. So if you're going to work with these, you want to kind of take it slow, and like I said, it's better to use smaller brushes so that it doesn't get out of hand, because these do go a really long way. So when you go to put it onto your eyes, you can really blend and blend and blend and stretch that color out basically all over your lid, all over your crease if you want to, and you don't have to dip in a lot of times to the shadows. So when you're working with those, I would be a little bit careful, and like I said, just take it slow because it's going to be a lot easier to work with that way. As for the regular mattes in this palette, I thought they performed beautifully. Now, keep in mind, I'm not really a neutral kind of person, so I didn't use a lot of the browns in the kind of way that a lot of other people would use browns, so I didn't really go in and try to build up slowly a brown crease because it's not something that I usually do. But just from working with these, I still found that they performed really well the way that I like to use my shadows, so I would imagine them just from like feeling them on my eyelid and just being able to pick them up and the way that they performed on me. I can imagine them being really good use just to make very simple looks with, even though that's not really what I did in this video because that's not my style. So I will say that the mattes performed really nicely. Now, as for the shimmers, there's also a lot of shimmer formulas in this palette, which I feel like I still don't really have like the best grasp of what is what, because there's a lot of shadows in this palette, right? So it's gonna take a while for me to be able to use all of them multiple times and really, you know, get an understanding of how these are really supposed to work, because there are also a couple of shadows in here, the shimmers I should say, that are kind of similar, so I didn't end up using all of them because there were some tones that just kind of drew me in more than others, so I kind of skipped out on some of the ones that looked a bit too similar. So that's one of my few cons about this palette, is that there are a lot of kind of similar shades, but I also see why she put them in, because they are different tones and they go with different kinds of mattes, if that makes sense. And like I said, also because there are similar shadows, they're also different formulas. So like it makes sense to me that there are kind of two reds and that there are two oranges, because they're different formulas, so they're going to do different things. But I can't tell you exactly how all of these are going to perform on the eyes. I will say that the ones that I tried that were metallics, they had a lot of fallout. So what you want to do is you want to either use some glitter glue, or you want to spray your brush when using these shadows. Or you could also, of course, do your face makeup last, which I always do my face first because it's just how I like to do my makeup. So that would definitely be a tip that I would say. And I would also say that with the metallic formula, I did have a lot of fallout on my face during the day when I didn't use glitter glue. And I didn't use glitter glue most of the time because when I was doing these looks, I tended to do like a look after another look after another look. So I would usually do like 2 in a row. And so for the first look, I would not use glitter glue, but because obviously it would be harder to take that off afterwards to do another look. And then sometimes I would just forget. And I definitely noticed that at the end of the day, when I didn't use glitter glue, I would have a little bit of fallout on my face. And sometimes like with the blues and stuff, if I got unlucky, it would kind of like smear a little bit. So I would definitely say go ahead and use some kind of a glitter primer if you're going to use these like all over your lid. Now, as for my final thoughts on this palette, I honestly really like this palette, and I would recommend it if you can afford it and if you feel like this is something that's going to add something to your collection. I don't really feel like a lot of people need this palette because I feel like a lot of people probably have similar shades in their collection. But if you are looking for something that is going to feel very high-end, very luxurious, if you want to treat yourself to something really nice, that's really nice quality, that's maybe something unique formula-wise that you don't have in your collection, and you like the colors in this and you think that this is something that you're going to wear a lot, I would highly recommend it. I have seen some other reviews that haven't been as positive. I will link Theresa's dance review down in my description box if you want to go check that out, because she had some different opinions than me, and she also had some issues with some of the shimmers kind of hurting her eyes when she sprayed them. So I would go ahead and go check out her review as well. And this goes for any review. If you are wondering about whether or not you should buy something, don't just watch one review. Go watch someone else's as well and get multiple opinions, because when it comes to something as expensive as $128 palette, you might want to get more than just one opinion. But as for my opinion, I really like this palette, and I think that if you have similar preferences to what I do, I think you're going to love this palette. So that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you found this helpful. Let me know if you like the looks. Also, if you're not already subscribed to my channel, don't forget to do so. And if you want to see some similar content that I have, I'll pop a few up on the screen so you can go check those out. So that's going to be it for me. I hope I will see you all in my next video. Bye.